Letter 2. To Mrs. Seville, England, Archangel, 28th of March, 17 something. How slowly the time passes here, encompassed as I am by frost and snow, yet a second step is taken towards my enterprise. I've hired a vessel, and am occupied in collecting my sailors. Those whom I have already engaged appear to be men on whom I can depend, and are certainly possessed of dauntless courage. But I have one want which I have never yet been able to satisfy, and the absence of the object of which I now feel is a most severe evil. I have no friend, Margaret. When I'm glowing with the enthusiasm of success, there will be none to participate in my joy. If I'm assailed by disappointment, no one will endeavor to sustain me in dejection. I shall commit my thoughts to paper, it is true, but that is a poor medium for the communication of feeling. I desire the company of a man who could sympathize with me, whose eyes would reply to mine. You may deem me romantic, my dear sister, but I bitterly feel the want of a friend. I have no one near me, gentle yet courageous, possessed of a cultivated as well as of a capacious mind, whose tastes are like my own, to approve or amend my plans. Who would such a friend How would such a friend repair the faults of your poor brother? I am too ardent in execution and too impatient of difficulties. But it is a still greater evil to me that I am self educated. For the first 14 years of my life, I ran wild on a common and read nothing but our Uncle Thomas's books of voyages. At that age, I became acquainted with the celebrated poets of our own country, but it was only when it had ceased to be in my power to derive its most important benefits from such a conviction that I perceived the necessity of becoming acquainted with more languages than that of my native country. Now I'm 28 and am in reality more illiterate than many schoolboys of 15. It is true that I have thought more, and that my daydreams are more extended and magnificent, but they want, as the painters call it, keeping, and I greatly need a friend who would have sense enough not to despise me as a romantic, and affection enough for me to endeavor to regulate my mind. Well, these are useless complaints. I shall certainly find no friend on the wide ocean, nor even hear an archangel among merchants and seamen. Yet some feelings, unallied to the dross of human nature, beat even in those rugged bosoms. My lieutenant, for instance, is a man of wonderful courage and enterprise. He is madly desirous of glory. He is an Englishman, and in the midst of national and professional prejudices, unsoftened by cultivation, retains some of the noblest endowments of humanity. I first became acquainted with him on board of a whale vessel. Finding that he was unemployed in this city, I eagerly engaged him to assist in my enterprise. The master is a person of an excellent disposition and is remarkable in the ship for his gentleness and the mildness of his discipline. He is indeed of so amiable a nature that he will not hunt, a favorite and almost the only amusement here, because cannot endure to spill blood. He is, moreover, heroically generous. Some years ago, he loved a Russian lady of moderate fortune, and having amassed a considerable sum in prize money, the father of the girl consented to the match. He saw his mistress once before the destined ceremony, but she was bathed in tears, and throwing herself at his feet, entreated him to spare her, confessing at the same time that she loved another, but that he was poor and that her father would never consent to the union. My generous friend reassured the suppliant, and on being informed of the name of her lover, instantly abandoned his pursuit. He had already bought a farm with his money, on which he had designed to pass the remainder of his life, but he bestowed the whole on his rival, together with the remains of his prize money to purchase stock, and then himself solicited the young woman's father to consent to her marriage with her lover. But the old man decidedly refused, thinking himself bound in honor to my friend, who, when he found the father inexorable, quitted his country, nor returned until he heard that his former mistress was married according to her inclinations. What a noble fellow, you will exclaim. He is so, but then he has passed all his life on board a vessel and has scarcely an idea beyond the rope and the shroud. But do not suppose that, because I complain a little, or because I can conceive a consolation for my toils which I may never know, that I am wavering in my resolutions. Those are as fixed as fate, and my voyage is only now delayed until the weather shall permit my embarkation. The winter has been dreadfully severe, but the spring promises well, and is considered as a remarkable early season, so that perhaps I may sail sooner than I expected. I shall do nothing rashly, you know me sufficiently to confide in my prudence and considerateness whenever the safety of others is committed to my care. I cannot describe to you my sensations on the near prospect of my undertaking. It is impossible to communicate to you a conception of the trembling sensation, half pleasurable and half fearful, with which I am preparing to depart. I am going to unexplored regions, to the land of mist and snow, but I shall kill no albatross. Therefore, do not be alarmed for my safety. Shall I meet you again after having traversed immense seas and returned by the most southern cape of Africa or America? I dare not expect such success, yet I cannot bear to look on the reverse of the picture. Continue to write me by every opportunity. I may receive your letters, though the chance is very doubtful, on some occasions when I need them most to support my spirits. I love you very tenderly. Remember me with affection, should you never hear from me again. Your affectionate brother, Robert Walton. So, in this letter, we can see that Robert has continued in his ambition to go to the North Pole. He's made it to Archangel, which is like a northernmost point of Russia for his journey. He's acquired sailors. But from the literature perspective, we really start to feel how romantic of a novel this is. And we don't mean that in terms of like a love story. We mean that in terms of the traits of the romantic period of writers. So we get these rich descriptions of nature and the celebration of it. We get this adventurous feeling Robert has of being the first to explore something. But we also begin to see the extremes that people go to in this book when moved by strong feelings. So he tells this kind of ridiculous story of his master of his ship that he's hired, who gives away like his entire fortune when the girl that he loves somebody else so that she'll be happy. So assuming, of course, that that story is meant to be true and not just a fanciful tale, it shows sort of the extreme um, actions people pursue when they have these very strong feelings, which will be a recurring motif in this book. We also learn, I think most notably, that the one area where Robert is struggling is not really having any friends. So he likes the people that he's working with, but he doesn't feel that he can um, unburden his soul to them and have these deep philosophical conversations like he wants to, because they're working men and they're doing the job that they're being paid to do. They're not here for this sort of fanciful type of glory that he's going for. So we'll see if he manages to find a friend on the wide, frozen expanse of sea.